Hello, and today on the Average Tabletop Gamers, I'm going to be looking at the City Debris Terrain pack from Micro Art Studio. Hello, it is me, Sven here, and I've got some scenery here that's sent to us by our good friends Micro Art Studio. You may have seen we've reviewed a couple of their bits before, such as the Star Wars Legion bases that Gary looked at, and we also had the Star Wars Legion outpost, the hangar they sent us, the kind of battle bunker, and they've once again delivered and sent us some City Debris. So this is one of their smaller packs, which is it's just called City Debris, and it looks like it makes two ruined corners. As you'd imagine it, or as you can see, it is kind of your MDF kit, and it comes with the basic instructions. So we've got here nicely colour coded or colour coordinated instruction sheet, and we've got some of the MDF pieces themselves. So it looks like there's a couple of different thicknesses here. There's some quite thin parts which look like they're the fascias. Obviously we'll get into building this out in a moment, and then we've got the more heavy duty thicker pieces of MDF. So it looks like we've got enough to say here to make two corner buildings, and we've got the remainder of the instructions on the back. And Micro Art Studio also give you a little guide sheet about how to work with MDF or HDF as they are using. But obviously if you've built these kits before, it should be fairly straightforward for you to work with. So overall the quality looks nice. So there's some detail etched in on things like the tiles, which will be nice and help us when we come to paint this out. We can use those to try and achieve the same effect that they've got on their painted examples. So they've, as you can see there, sorry, I'll get rid of that glare. On the painted example, you can see there they've got the checker pattern on the floor, which means I can kind of try and replicate something similar to that when I come to paint these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly pop the camera off to one side, and I'm going to start building these and see how we get on building them, and then we'll do a quick paint and we'll give a quick review at the end. So just give you a quick overview. So this kit here currently retails on their website at €17 22 cents, which in English money is about £15 about now at the time of recording this. With the exchange rate, obviously it may differ depending on where you are when you're ordering this and what the exchange rate is at the time. Obviously it says there as well, just to point out, this is designed for 28 to 30mm scale, so it's going to be perfect for anything from bolt action through to something like Warhammer 40k or anything in or around that scaling. Okay, so as I say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this camera off to the side and we will do a quick build through and we'll see what it looks like when it's all assembled. Okay, so I've already punched out all of the bits from the frames, as you can see here. So that's all done. It was relatively easy to pop them off the frames. All I used was, I just basically used the blade of a Stanley knife just to push down between where it met the frame, and actually they were really fine like connectors, so it wasn't that much trouble to pop them off. And then all I've done is I've just used a flat file just to take those little bits off so it's a bit cleaner. So I've already sorted the piles out, and now here's the piles I need to make the first building or the first ruin, and I've got my instructions in front of me. So I'm just going to be using a PVA glue, or like a wood glue in this case. I'm going to use some Gorilla Glue, which is just the one that I happen to use. However, you know, even stuff like this cheap PVA glue's alright for MDF and HDF. So I say I've already dry fitted this just to make sure that everything does match up and go through the relevant places, and that when this is gonna, you know, lock together when it's been put together like this. a bit fiddly to get all these line up, but it will go. There we go. So you can see there, so it's going to be a bit of a fiddle on to do that, but I've already dry fitted this first section, as I say, just to make sure that's going to go together okay. So and already first hurdle, get that little bit of glue out of there. There we go. I'm not going to use a lot here, just going to hit the main contact surfaces with a little bit, because that'll obviously spread in as we're going. And then I just use normally a little plastic spreader. What I'll do is I'll just basically make sure that I clean those little blobs up and push those in and give me a bit of a seal, and also means I don't have those looking out of place when I'm finished, so we kind of clean that up as we're going. Obviously the underside I'm not too worried about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get this whole first corner piece put together, because then it'll kind of hold itself in place as we're working. I think I need to get top of my glue up here, I think. When I was dry fitting this one, I already found that there was a few of these little tabs that I had to just file gently to get them to fit nicely, but it wasn't much work needed at all. I'm not too worried about this because I've got some offcuts and bits left over from other MDF kits and things, and bits of rubble. Then I want to be filling in these to make it look a bit more derelict as we go, because obviously, you know, this is a ruined building. Okay, so now we'll put the second side on. So this is where it starts to get a bit tricky and fiddly, and where you need a couple of extra hands. But we'll see if we can get this to fit and line up here. There we go. Let's see what I'm going to do. I'm just, while this is still a bit wet, I'm just going to make sure I spread this glue in here. Right, okay, so I've got that glued up now, and I've also added the bottom on as well, so I just basically added that on again. I only give it about 5 minutes to dry, and then I put the bottom on just so that would help it then glue square. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add these little exterior detail pieces. So I've already kind of gone around and made sure these are going to fit nicely in place. So these are going to be adding on here, and they're going to give a bit of 3D depth to the outside of the building. And these are going to be fairly straightforward to add. So again, just a dab of glue on each one should do it. I'll come back and I'll tidy these all up in a second once I've got them stuck on. Okay, so there's those outside detail pieces fitted. So the next step is to take these pieces, and these are going to fit inside in between those bits to basically hide these bits of detail where the notches come through, which I think is a really nice touch, because it does mean I don't have to try and fill those with anything later on. So what I can do is just make sure these kind of match up to where I want them to be. You see they give it the windows a bit of depth as well. So I can go ahead and just pop those on. So again, they're not going to need much glue on the back of them. I just want enough to get a bit of adhesion, so that it's not going to get caught and pulled. So I'll just finish adding the rest of those out. Okay, so that's that pretty much done and ready for paint. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some extra rubble on the interior here just to make it look a bit more bombed out. So I'll get the other one built, and then I'll grab some bits to make some rubble, and then we'll do that, and then I'll get them into paint. Right, so that's both the buildings finished, and what I really like is this relief detail that these little fascias give, because not only does it hide all those the bits where the floors come through, but it also gives you some some battle damage. And this is an important thing here: make sure you do follow the instructions when you're adding these on, so that they actually match up with the holes behind, and you'll get that effect where you've got the explosion going through both layers of the building. So as I say, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to basically add a little bit of rubble. So just on the outside here again, just to make this look a little bit where, you know, you've got bits of rubble have dropped down. Fill up some of these gaps, make this not look so clean and square on the outside. So what I'm going to do that is I've got some various grits and sands that I've got graded. So I've graded these all just using some sieves down to fine sand, and I've also got some little baggies of the bits that you pop out when you're building these MDF kits. These little square bits make great bits of rubble. Now you don't want to use too many of these because obviously they are still quite square. Ideally what I want to do is run these around over some sandpaper or something and knock the edges off them. And there's a few little bits there that I can use as some beams to maybe put on the inside, some interior detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some PVA glue into these areas here and put the rubble in, and I'll maybe do some just in the back corners again, just to make these look not so sharp and give it a bit of detail for when it's built. So I'll do that now quickly, and then it'll be ready to leave it all for paint. Right, so I've done the a bit of extra work on, put some rubble on, so I hope you can see that on the base. So again, as I say, I've just basically used a mix of some of those bits of MDF, like the cut-offs. I've used some heavier grit, and I've used some fine sand just to block that up and fill that in. And obviously I've done a little bit on the inside as well, just to again hide some of those gaps as well, you know, just from when I've been building it. but also it gives it a bit of extra character. Let's see if I can get in the light there. And then I've done that on the second building as well, so you can see that a bit better there. So I'm going to let that glue fully dry, because I want that so that I can now get it into undercoating. In terms of colour scheme, I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to go for like kind of a brownstone exterior, so do like maybe the brown around the video, around the so for paint, for colour scheme, I'm probably going to go for like a brown on the outside, so I'll probably just spray a brown from the outside, spray the interior with a grey. I'll do some kind of paint, like some wallpapery effects or some interior paint. I might do the checkers on here, since I've got that nice checkerboard to follow, and I'll make them look both the same, and that way they'll fit into sci-fi, they'll fit into World War II, they'll even fit into Dread, so I'll be able to use that as well. So what I'll do is I will go and get these painted, and when you next see them, hopefully in just a moment, they will be fully painted, and I'll give my final thoughts and reviews on these City Debris buildings from Micro Art Studio. Right, and so here we can see I've finished painting, or I've gotten to a point where I'm happy to put them on the table. We've got given it a basic paint job. I did most of this with sprays in about 20 minutes or so. So it was basically a black undercoat. I sprayed it with brown, so it was one of the Army Painter brown sprays on the outside, and then I sprayed the inside liberally with a uniform grey Army Painter spray, and again you dusted it with some grey and some white just to give it a bit more, kind of take the edge off the brown a bit. And then I just did some basic scorching, you know, with some thin down black paint, and then obviously painted the checkerboard floor and the tiles. And I say, although it's not probably you know, the best paint job, I'm happy that this would go on the table for me. I may come back and just weather up these tiles a bit more. When you actually look at the picture that's on the when you look at the picture that's on the material that comes with the literally that comes with the piece, you can see they've done a lot more heavy weathering. So I think what I'll do is I'll probably put this on the table with some of the other scenery and see what it looks like together. However, you know, for the sake of about an hour's painting, you know, that's ready to go on the table now and play with. In terms of scale wise, what I've done is I've just picked up a couple. So I've got a couple here of a couple of Terminators from Warhammer 40k, and you can see actually the scaling wise is really nice for those. And that'll fit in with your 32mm 40k or Infinity or anything like that. But then also, just to show, so I've got a few of some Fallschirmjäger here from Bolt Action, and you can see how they kind of scale up as well. So if I put like the guy with the Panda Shrek out the window, you can see there that it actually scales really nicely with 28mm as well. So it's going to work well for anything like 28mm, 32mm, Bolt Action, any sci-fi stuff, because the buildings are quite generic in their approach. You know, there could be a sci-fi building, there could be something like Gothic, you know, from the 40k universe. They could be used in an apocalypse style game, they could be used in a lot of different games where you're going to have like architecture like this. So I think actually the universal appeal of them is really nice. The detailing on them, so obviously I called this out when I was building them, but this detail here, these blast marks and craters and pit marks in the outer skin that you apply, just adds so much depth to the building. And again, you can just pick that out easily with a little bit of highlighting and dry brushing. And all I did, as I say, you know, I pointed out earlier, I just added a little bit of extra rubble just to fill in the gaps and just fill up that base a little bit, and again add a bit more character to the interior and make it seem like a building that's been you know, completely felled. So overall, you know, it's really easy to get a nice effective piece to sit on the table, just with a little bit of paint and a little bit extra. And as I say, the scaling there is perfect for the kind of games that I'm going to be playing. So, in summary, I think this is a phenomenally well valued or good value piece of terrain. So we said earlier, you know, it's like €17, 22 currently on the website, which works out about 15 British pounds, 15 pounds sterling, which I think for something like this is absolutely brilliant, especially when you consider the exterior detail that you get. You know, I've paid probably about the same for a piece of MDF scenery that's probably about half the size of this and doesn't have that detail. So this is spot on for me. Definitely going to give this a thumbs up in the traditional average tabletop gamer style, in terms of the way it's going to be used. And I think for me, I'll probably get some more pieces like this and build up this so that if I'm playing a late war ball action game, if we're playing anything set around Stalingrad or Berlin, you know, you can have the bombed out buildings, and I think they're going to fit right in with scenarios like that. Or I'll use them in something like 7TV Apocalypse, you know, put alongside some of my other buildings to make it look like we've got some ruined and dilapidated buildings. So I think they're going to fit in perfectly with the games that we play. And as I said before, the universal appeal of these is, I think there's so many different games they'll fit into. If you get these, you know they're going to be used quite a lot in your games. So overall, in terms of value for money, I think it's 10 out of 10. For the detail and the build quality, I'd say it's a 10 out of 10 again. This for me is kind of one of the best MDF kits that I've seen in a long time. And I think Micro Art Studio are just really knocking it out the park every time. So I'm just going to give a nice lingering look at their logo again. So if you go to microartstudio.com, there's a link to the shop in there. I'll put all the links down below in their description section of this YouTube video. You'll also find the links there to go and like, share and subscribe the content from us here at the Average Tabletop Gamers. So that's where you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Go find our pages, give us a like, give us a share. Go find the Average Tabletop Gamers support group and join in with a chat in there. Recommend your favourite bits of MDF scenery. Is there any companies that we should be looking at that are going to rival Micro Art Studio? Let us know so we can check those out as well, because at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to find the bits of scenery that are going to be best for your table and best for your wallet and best for your games. So as I said, overall I think this is a great piece of kit, great piece of scenery from Micro Art Studio. Yet again, they've smashed it at the park with the stuff that we've seen from them, and I'm going to definitely be picking up more of their stuff in the future. So for now, from me, Sven, thank you very much for sticking around and watching this video as we've reviewed the Micro Art Studio Scenery City Debris kit. We'll be back with more reviews of stuff like this in the future, more playthroughs. So again, make sure you go like, share and subscribe our page, and we'll see you very soon. See you later. Bye.